The Humber estuary drains Yorkshire's great rivers into the sea, but for seafaring folk these are treacherous waters. Sandbanks lurk beneath the surface, and for over 1,000 years, going back to the time when this place was known as Wyke, carefully acquired local knowledge has had to work out where to dredge the channels to keep shipping safe. But what does history tell us? Well, in the year 1293, King Edward I bought land from the monks of the Abbey of Mews, which is about 7 miles to the north. He wanted a base for his soldiers, repelling the incursions of the Scots, and he called the place Kingstown upon Hull. Hull, of course, is the river which drains into the estuary just over there. Hull's position facing Europe across the North Sea meant it quickly developed as a port. What happened was that woolen exports went out that way, and timber, oil, linen, spices came in across the North Sea. And that's how this chap made his money, William de la Pole. He became the first Lord Mayor of Hull in 1332. The other sculpture here, a naked figure, is one of a pair, and the other is in Vik in Iceland, and together they mark the rapprochement between Hull and Iceland at the end of the Cod Wars in 1976. Cod Wars, which of course led to the virtual extinction of the deep sea fishing industry here in Hull. But behind me over there, that's the Deep, a fascinating place where you can come up close and personal with 3,500 species of fish. To reflect its growing importance as a port, Holy Trinity Church was rebuilt in stone in the 14th century. Technically speaking, though, it was only a chapel of ease to the main parish church at Hessel, 5 miles to the west. But at 270 feet long, it was bigger than Hessel. And when Holy Trinity finally became a parish church in its own right in 1661, it was also the biggest parish church in England. Well, overlooking it all, on the other side of the square, is a statue to the Hull poet Andrew Marvell. He was born, brought up and educated in the city at the grammar school, and he also had connections with the other building which overlooks this square, Trinity House. This is the home to the Mariners Guild. It was established as a charitable organisation in the mid-15th century. It took on the responsibility of ensuring the safe guidance of shipping in and out of the port. This is the River Hull, after which the city is named. Now, until the 18th century, when the docks began to be built, everything that came in and out of this port was loaded and offloaded down here. There were also shipyards where they built the traditional Humber keels and sloops which carried goods up and down the coast and also to the inland ports. But if you'd been here in the 18th century, what would you have seen? Well, you'd have seen them loading and unloading all sorts of exotic goods from the east. Coffee, tea, cocoa, and even whales from the Arctic. Well, down here, you can see behind me, there's an old trawler, the Arctic Corsair. Now, she is the last Sidewinder trawler to sail out of Hull. She's now a floating museum, and incidentally, she didn't unload whales because the last one to be captured and brought into this port was in 1869. This must be one of the few high streets in the country where there are no shops. But if you'd been here in the 19th century, it'd been rather different. What you'd have heard would have been the clatter of the carts' wheels over the cobbles, echoing off the walls of the merchants' houses and the warehouses. These days, though, all you hear is the chatter of visitors who have come here to the city's museum quarter, the Museum of Hull and East Yorkshire, the Street Life Museum, and of course one of the most important and iconic museums in the whole of Hull. This 16th century house was the birthplace on August the 24th, 1759, of one of Hull's most famous sons, William Wilberforce. He was an MP for the city by the time he was 21, but of course he will always be remembered and revered for his crucial role in the abolition of the slave trade in 1833. By the 19th century, Hull was the country's third largest port. But it wasn't until 1897 that Hull actually became a city. And then the magnificent Guild Hall was built to provide a home for Hull City Council. And incidentally, if you look on the roof, you'll see those two magnificent and very large sculptures, Neptune's Daughters by Albert Hodge. Well now, the Guild Hall was built next door to the old Queen's Dock. And the Queen's Dock was one of the 11 which were built, first in the centre of the city and then out towards the east between 1778 and 1969. But by 1930, trade was beginning to tail off, and so the old Queen's Dock was filled in. In medieval times, a wall was built round the city to protect the docks and, perhaps more importantly, its arsenal. And it was here on this spot in 1642 that the parliamentarian Sir John Hotham refused King Charles I's entry into the city of Hull. He was after the city's arms cache. And it was one of the incidents which sparked off the English Civil War, a conflict which did neither man any good. Hotham was executed for treason in 1645. King Charles I had his head removed by the regicides 4 years later in 1649. Well, over here, this unusual-looking three-cornered building is the old Dock Office, now home to the Maritime Museum. Next door is Hull City Hall, a 1,700-seat concert venue for all sorts of classical and popular music. Indeed, the Beatles famously once played Hull City Hall. And finally, over here in this corner, this glass-fronted building, is the Prince's Quay Shopping Centre. Hull may no longer be a centre of the fishing industry, but it is still a major port. Timber, specialty oils and cocoa products are still staples. And of course, Hull is also a major passenger terminal. Over 1 million people every year travel on the overnight ferries to Zeebrugge and to Rotterdam. And let's not forget all the pleasure craft crammed here into the marina, what used to be the old railway dock. So there are still many reasons to come to the ancient and historic city of Kingstown upon Hull.